All right, welcome to the Remarkable Retail Podcast. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm Steve Dennis.
So this episode is Profitless Prosperity, which is a great title, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's get into the news of the week. And you and I both commented on this. You beat me to the punch on email, but Casper gets taken private by, I think, a private equity shop. And it's funny because... not funny, haha, funny, peculiar, because you and I were already planning this episode in advance of that. So I think we actually switched timing just because this is exactly what we were talking about. So what were your observations about the news coming out of Casper?
Well, we will get into this kind of profitless prosperity narrative around some of these disruptive brands in a second as part of the episode. But yeah, Casper, it's funny. Casper has been one of the darlings of the digitally native vertical brands, as they're called, and raised a bunch of money, growing very, very quickly, went public, I think about 2 years ago, and at one point was valued, was one of these unicorns, valued well over $1 billion. And I used to work in the mattress business, so I have some sense of the economics there. And every time I looked at their numbers, I was like, cool story, but economics looked really shaky. Tremendous amount of money on marketing, very low gross margins, and
very liberal returns.
Very liberal returns, and a ton of competition as well. I talk about their Dreamery concept, their physical store concept in my book. I think that's really cool. I always wondered what the numbers looked like on that, and it turns out they look pretty terrible. So the stock price has really collapsed. They were down to, I think, about $600 million in market value, and now they're going private at an even lower number. So this is a big run up and a big run down. So what we'll talk about a little bit in the episode is, is Casper just kind of this isolated example, or does this say something more about what's going on in the market? But it's hopefully gives them. I mean, they definitely need an infusion of capital to keep going. They've been burning through cash. And presumably this will be an opportunity to get them off the public market stage and do some sort of restructuring behind the scenes at maybe a number that works better for the new investors.
Interesting. Well, that's a great segue. That's our news segment of the week, but it's a fantastic segue into our full episode, which is great. I love our solo episodes. And by the way, thanks to all the listeners and viewers who are supporting the podcast. We're getting some great downloads and listens, and I got some great feedback this week from a very senior retailer here in Canada who loves listening to us when he barbecues, actually, and he says, we're talking barbecue, of course, and he said, listen, I love your solo episodes as much as the guest episodes. So that's a great feedback from our listeners, and thank you to our audience, and we intend to do more of both in season 4. When we get to season 4, some solo stuff and some thoughts, and we're going to be on the road and NRF, so we might do some stuff at the big show in January. So lots coming up in season 4.